Hello and welcome to Sky Career Talks, here where we get to discuss why communicating and connecting with Rutgers alumni is so important. Today we'll be learning about Erin Keenan, who graduated in 1997 with a BA in Communications from Elon College, and then graduated from Rutgers in 2005 from the MCIS program. Erin now works as the Global Marketing Consultant with Hasbro Inc. Here we get to learn more about Erin's beginnings to her career and how she pursued to get where she is today.
Hi, my name is Lane Klimak, and today I'm joined by Erin Keenan to discuss where Rutgers alumni start their career after college. Thank you so much for joining us today, Erin. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. So, can you start by giving us a brief overview of your career journey?
Absolutely. After I completed my undergraduate in the late 90s, I knew I wanted to be in media and communications. My degree was a Bachelor of Arts in journalism and communications, and I started my career at a public relations agency outside of Boston. And it was a rough start. I found myself being very out of sorts and didn't quite like the abrupt shift to high demands and long hours. So I share that as just encouragement in that sometimes out of the gates, it's not exactly how you plan, but it's important to honor yourself, understand where you belong and where you don't. I think that's a theme that kind of comes along on the journey. So I started in public relations. And from there, I was hired as a marketing associate at Babson College in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And being a young, eager, new college grad, I was really welcomed and helped a lot with their media relations, with connecting professors who are experts to the media outlets so that we could really position Babson College as a pioneer in entrepreneurship, which is what they were known for. And because it was the late 90s and the internet was just coming into fold, I actually raised my hand and went to BU and got some certifications for HTML to really be a leader on their team to build the college website. So that was something that was completely out of the scope of something that I studied, but I think it's really important to keep your ear close to the ground and understand where the learning opportunities are in your roles. Where even though I was hired to do public relations and more communication style, I knew that the internet and the website was going to be a very important marketing tool for the college. So I raised my hand and was able to get an additional learnings out of not only my role, but additional skills, technical skills that would help me in the future. So that was my start. From there, being in media and communications, I really wanted to work in New York City. I was lucky enough to really be a go-getter and work with recruiters and headhunters. And I landed a job with the Hearst company, which is a really big media conglomerate. And in the early 2000s, they were most known for some of their newspapers, like the San Francisco Chronicle, and their magazines like Cosmopolitan and Good Housekeeping. And I landed a role there where I was in corporate sales and marketing and worked alongside the advertising and sales teams to put together marketing programs for our highest paying advertisers. So, for example, we worked on Ford, and their big philanthropic initiative was Race for the Cure and raising money for breast cancer. So, as the marketing lead, I was able to use my marketing education and communication skills to really build out 360 integrated programs that added value to their straight advertising. So Ford would run a print ad in magazines such as Cosmopolitan and Good Housekeeping. And then my role was to take those broader initiatives and put together 360 programs that included advertorials and events, sweepstakes, things like that. So I really enjoyed that role. I liked it a lot because it was changing very frequently. And I am a very curious person. And I think that's a very important way to constantly find newness and challenges in your role. Like just remain very curious And with all the new clients and projects that I got to work on, it felt like a totally new job every time. So I did that at Hearst for 5 years, and I moved on and did it at Time Inc., and then another big publisher, of course. And then I worked at AOL because I knew I needed to really, digital marketing was becoming more of a focus. And while most of my experience had been in print, I wanted to expand my career and my experience and have some digital experience. So I worked at AOL doing something very similar, putting together integrated campaigns for advertisers on our platform. And then my career really took another turn. I decided that I wanted to go back to school, and that's where Rutgers really came into play. I had been doing something pretty comfortably for a while and was ready for another challenge. And it was before I had children. So I really enjoyed the flexibility of the Rutgers. At that point, it was called the MCIS program, where I was able to attend in the evenings, and my company paid for it, which was even better. So they really invested in me in that. I was able to further my education and kind of get back to my roots of learning more about my trade, my interests. And that degree really helped me network with new and interesting people, which is very, very important as you make your way through your career. Making sure the one thing that stood out from my program, and I hope it doesn't minimize the great impact it had on me, which was the strength of weak ties. And I think that is a really, really important nugget that's remained with me. That's something I think all of you should hold close to your heart. You never know in your career or in your education or anything in life, the connections that you make, albeit the weak ties or the strong ties, that can be very powerful levers in your career. And your network truly is your net worth. And you're going to have to rely on it as you navigate your career. So that was a really important nugget I took out of my program, and it's really carried through for me and helped me along my way. So shall I keep going with the career, or do you want to ask any additional questions?
So I guess as you went through your program and you said, networking was important. So what type of, technical or interpersonal skills do you think that students need to start their career, get their foot out the door and really start, fresh out of college or even in college trying to expand?
I think the first and foremost is really embracing your uniqueness and being your authentic self and knowing who you are and where you belong. I shared that story about that first PR company, and it's okay to not be in a place that's exactly for you. I think you just have to remain authentic to yourself, and your confidence will come out. I think it's in my career, there are silos or expectations or cultural expectations of where you should be and how you should behave. As long as you're professional and kind, you need to just be authentic to yourself, find your uniqueness, embrace your uniqueness, and be confident, because there's only one you. You are uniquely you, and no one else can do what you can do. I think that is the single most important way to approach it.
That's definitely great advice that I think students can use in the future and just while they're in their career, really standing out makes a difference. So obviously earlier as you talked, you really stressed networking. So we talked about it already, but how important do you think networking is for your specific industry and, developing one's career? And, what do you think students should know when they're networking and when they're applying for jobs?
I think it's very important, not only when I had a 7-year career at Hasbro, the toy company, which was a complete pivot from what I had been doing in media and marketing. And I got my foot in the door by essentially replacing like an intern's type of position. But I knew it was a great company that was very creative and a place where I could see myself really thriving. So that example is proved to be, sometimes you take a risk, and it's okay to take a step back to take a step forward. And once I got my foot in the door at Hasbro, I started impressing people with being, really performing, being accountable, being responsible, really hardworking, and then reaching out to people within the company. People genuinely want to help one another, and you have to have the confidence. And the worst that can happen is they say no, and that's okay, because you will pay it forward later on. That's the way it works. So get your foot in the door, work hard, impress others, and ask someone for a coffee. See how you can help somebody else, but pay it forward, and you will naturally see the road kind of open up for you as you go along. And I also think positivity. People respond to positive energy. Everybody wants to be around that. I've been told that I have really positive energy, and it's helpful and it inspires others. So I think getting in there, putting your best foot forward, and really reaching out and connecting with others is really important.
That's definitely beneficial for students. I think, networking is definitely something that's being stressed in not only classes, but outside of it, and just how important it is to make those connections. So, reflecting back on your time during your undergraduate degree, your graduate degree, do you have any tips or recommendations that you would advise the students who are just starting out their career, trying to get their foot in the door?
Yeah, I've already touched on it. I think the most important, well, there's a few things. The first is to really follow your curiosity, because I think a lot of you hear about, what am I passionate about? You should be in a job that you're passionate about. I think I look around at a lot of my colleagues and former classmates, and you end up in a job that feels pretty like miserable, where you won't need a paycheck. I think when you start off, it's like really listen to yourself and follow your curiosity, because when you follow your curiosity, that leads you to your passion. And I think the sooner you get to do that, the better start you get. And don't be afraid. I know this is so cliche, but do not be afraid to fail. I was super proud of myself. I got hired by Amazon in a marketing role, and it ended up being a terrible experience in terms of the work, but I met interesting people. I learned a lot about myself. Not you can learn just as much about your failure from your failures as you can from your successes. So pick yourself back up, learn from your failures, and you'll be better off for it.
That's great. So, lastly, do you think that you could describe your job in 3 words for us?
Yes. So my current job is leading global marketing for the games portfolio at Hasbro. So I get to work on games like Guess Who and Monopoly and Jenga. So in 3 words, I guess I would say fun, creative, and challenging.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Erin. This advice will definitely be helpful for students starting their career.
Awesome. You're welcome.